Buona notizia, buonanotte. Allora, mi dispiace. Allora, mi dispiace, io non parlo italiano adesso. You have to listen to me. The good news is I'm the last presenter. Therefore, I'm trying to be fast and to not waste your time tonight. I'm sure you're all tired. The subject is bridging communities through heritage conservation in Afghanistan. The project that I'm going to present you is a result of around more than 20 years of experience working in Afghanistan with communities in cultural heritage, facing a lot of problems and challenges. Therefore, we decided to prepare a very short 15 minutes, I remember that, to just express the lesson learned, and then we want to see how we can use these lessons to use it in other regions like Syria. First of all, I'm sure you are familiar with the geography of Afghanistan. It's situated at the crossroad of Central Asia and the Middle East, serving the bridge where Western and the Middle Eastern culture converge. You have Buddhists coming from East, you have Islam coming from West, and then they meet in the center. And also, Afghanistan was an important part of the Silk Road. Therefore, you have a lot of culture meeting each other there, and this is developing new, amazing culture in the region. But as you could see in this timeline, Afghanistan faced a lot of problems, particularly in the last 100 years, from the monarchy abolished, from all the British fight that they had, British independence fight they had, and also going to the recent history from 1979 when the Soviet Union actually attacked Afghanistan up to today. We faced a lot of problems politically, economically, and in any sense you can imagine. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979, followed by a decade of civil wars, brought about numerous challenges, including widespread destruction, mass displacement, economic instability, and the loss of cultural heritage. This prolonged conflict left deep scars on the nation, impacting both its physical infrastructure and the well-being of its people. People are losing not just their homes, but also their memories, their connection to the past, and their sense of belonging. The destruction of houses is more than a physical loss. It erased a space where generations have stories, tradition, and personal histories there. But war is finishing. You still have some uxus, some unexploded ornaments amongst all the rubble that you have. That's another challenge. And that could cause another bad memory. You belong to that part, but you are afraid to go there to revisit your culture and your history. I'm sorry for this not beautiful images. The scars of war remain on both building and people, making rehabilitation more challenging than anticipated. One of the problems is the migration, often driven by socio-economic challenges or conflicts, leads to the abandonment of historic buildings, with residents reallocating elsewhere, leaving the country or moving to much more safe place for their family to live. This migration means they are leaving and abandoning the historic building. They are going to be eroded because this sort of building in Afghanistan, particularly those built in western Afghanistan, mostly made of adobe and mud. Therefore, you have to maintain them. Every year you have to put a new plaster, and lack of maintenance could cause this sort of problem. Above that, conflict, bombarding, all of these things adding to this problem. But after 2001, everyone was happy. Money is coming to the country. Significant amount of funding were allocated to Afghanistan for reconstruction efforts. However, this influx of resource led to the destruction of many parts of the historic urban fabric. Money was not a good thing. Government bodies were unprepared for the rapid pace of construction, and the lack of expertise, proper planning, and construction oversight resulted in the widespread destruction and unplanned development. As you could see in this image, they are demolishing a historic building to build a new house instead. I don't think this photo needs any comment. Let's talk about the challenges in heritage conservation. Discussing the challenges in detail is a complex task. I'm not going to explain all the details. I'm just going to take the most important one, the one that I think is important. Therefore, I will focus on highlighting the key challenges we encountered during over 20 years of heritage conservation efforts in Afghanistan. These main issues reflect the broader difficulties faced in preserving country's rich cultural heritage. Before getting into details, let's talk about this particular building, Darul Aman. A symbol of modern Afghanistan, was deeply impacted by the civil war. This iconic structure, representing the country's aspirations for progress and modernization. Unfortunately, this building never had a chance to present as its own role. But still, this is a symbol for Afghan people for modernity. However, in 2018, the building completely restored, reconstructed, and today actually is abandoned again. Security and economic constraints also is another challenge. This caused expert migration, brain drain impact, and gap in local expertise. We are not talking about doctors and engineers and architects. Even the masons, even the mechanics, even the good skilled worker left the country, and that's a big problem that we faced. Overcoming heritage conservation challenges by political instability creates an environment of uncertainty that disrupts heritage conservation. Conflict and lack of governance often leave cultural sites vulnerable to neglect. Destruction, misuse, wrong decision for conservation is a big challenge that we saw a lot of examples in Afghanistan. Resource limitation was another one. I'm not talking about just the material. Human resource is the main challenge there. But how to deal this with the community? Overcoming heritage conservation challenges need to talk to community. Community engagement and reconnecting community to their own cultural heritage, to their own memory is very important. That was the moment that we find out as an expatriate, as a foreigner, we cannot play a role in that until we use the local people to talk to them amongst themselves. That was a big challenge. Engaging local communities is vital for success of heritage conservation. When communities are involved in preservation efforts, you are sure that they are going to take care of this in the next future, and they are going to explain the effort that they put to conserve one building to their son, to their nephew, and it's going to be continued. Community engagement and educational impact was another important fact. As I mentioned, craftsmanship was one of the things that almost lost in many places. You have to find old people, old mason, old craftsman, old carpenter to train the new people. Many of these highly educated, highly trained, or highly skilled Afghan left the country during the last 40 years. Is it possible to ask them to come back? It's really difficult. You have to train a new generation by finding the only few people remain. Another point is, it's one of the mistakes that I saw in some other countries, that like Myanmar, people coming from Europe or USA, they're trying to adopt their technique, construction technique with themselves. That is wrong. We are not going to use the same Roman technique in, for example, Egypt or Afghanistan. You have to find, you have to study, you have to learn from them, develop it and give it back to them. You have to share the knowledge amongst the locals. A part of this craftsmanship, higher education was another important aspect. We tried to collect a series of scholars and ask them to preparing a sort of workshops in Kabul University to just highlight the importance of cultural heritage, to talk to people about that importance, and step by step, you are having an architect graduated from the university sensitive to cultural heritage. We don't want them to only think about cement and steel. That was an important task that Aga Khan Trust for Culture managed for more than 20 years. Parallel to that, they had a lot of conservation projects ongoing with the student of university. That is the task that is important. You need architects, you need engineers, you need craftsmen all together. Economic and social benefit also. Local economy, when you look at this international documents, they always talk about tourism and also all of these things. But before tourism, you have to create jobs. Conservation projects are the best tools for creating jobs. You need a lot of human source. You need a lot of workers. You need a lot of skilled men. And most of the money remain in the country.